Having too much clutter and not knowing where to start can be overwhelming. Joining me today to give us some tips on how to do this the right way is Annmarie Brogan, a professional organizer from Long Island. Thank you so much for joining me, Annmarie.
Thank you for having me.
So Annmarie, let's talk about decluttering and organizing, because during this lockdown period, I've had a lot of viewers who've asked and said that that's one of their triggers. You teach people how to get organized, and you've also included a little bit of positive psychology in there as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So thank you for giving me this platform to talk about it, because there's been a lot of different reactions to being in quarantine. Some people have been a little overwhelmed and with the idea that they should be more productive and all of that. They're like, I don't want to hear about it. And then there's other people saying, I have all this time at home. I can't stand the way I'm living. This is a perfect opportunity for me to kind of get my life together, and with that comes your environment and getting your space and clutter under control. So I'm really thrilled to be here for that. My partner Marie and I, Marie Limpert, we co-own a company called Organize Me of New York, and we teach organizing strategies and basic principles for getting organized, and that helps people control their clutter and to manage their space and their time effectively, so that the organizing supports the way they want to live their life. It reduces stress, and it also very often saves time and money, energy. We're expending a lot of energy because of clutter and disorganization. And obviously it maximizes your space. So everything just runs better when you're organized.
It's interesting because it's supposed to make people not so stressful, but it is a stressful process. So what are your recommendations for people who don't know how to start and are stressing over that?
Yeah, well, it can be very stressful, but when you learn the principles that we teach, it really isn't. And when you understand why, not just the what we're asking you to do, but the why we're asking you to do, and the impact that it has when you either do or do not implement them, it's not as hard. But it's like anything else. Like when you take on any goal, getting started can be overwhelming. And the idea is to obviously break it down into something that's more manageable. If you look at it at the whole, especially if you're coming from a state of severe disorganization, and you look around at it as a whole and you think, oh my God, I've been living like this for years. It's taken me years to get like this. It's not going to happen in a day.
Right.
So there needs to be that self-compassion to say, okay, I want to break this down. How can I make it more manageable? So from zooming out the lens, it would be, don't worry about getting your whole house in order or your whole life in order. Let's take baby steps.
Baby steps.
Really.
Some people asked and said that it's very difficult for them to part from things and get rid of certain things because of the emotional, meaning that they have. How do you work with someone like that? And what are some suggestions on, to tell people how to do it, for example, in terms of that?
Well, from the standpoint of letting go is hard for the exact reason you said, because people have the attachment. They have the attachment even when they don't like what the item is. They could think it's ugly, it could not match their decor, it could be decrepit, it could be broken, but somehow it's the association that they create with it. So they associate it with, very often, I'm not going to generalize, but very often it's, if I get rid of this, it's like I don't love my grandmother anymore, or I'm not honoring her. And that's a very strong association. And that sometimes clouds our judgment about what it means to have all this stuff in the house and how that's impacting the rest of the stuff that you do have. And so we always say, we want you to think in terms of what you're building and creating, not what you're letting go of. Because the first way is more empowering, and the second way is more crippling and debilitating. And it kind of chains you to something. And the emotions, it would cause more of a downward spiral rather than an upward spiral. But when you have a vision for your space and the way you want to live, and then you think of, okay, well, what is serving me in my life? Is this item serving me? You're not honoring your grandmother when this thing is cluttering up your home. You don't get a good feeling when you look at it, you know, and it's preventing you from using your space effectively. And that's depleting your energy because, you know, you don't feel good about the way you live. You can't find what you need when you want it. You're now stressed out about it. You're maybe yelling at your spouse or your kids or your friend, you know what I mean? Because again, we deplete ourselves of that energy, all this decision making and not feeling good about ourselves. You have to kind of weigh that. That doesn't make the process easier.
Right.
So we always try to focus on what we can control versus what we can't and make the process more manageable. So we always, if you're starting out with a big project, we want you to sort through your belongings and group like items together. And then you have categories of different things. So it's not one big blob of stuff that you're looking.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go kind of category by category. And then you're seeing how much you have of something. It makes the process a lot more manageable when you remove the other stuff and you look at it one category at a time.
And what about if you want to declutter your whole entire house and organize, do you start in a particular room or not really?
Well, that's what I was going to
the categories.
Yes. Well, to your question from before as to where you begin,
Mm-hmm.
how do you make it more manageable? Like the first thing I was saying before was, again, to break it down into a smaller, more manageable task. So instead of doing your whole kitchen, if you're not going to have the time to put your attention on that, start with the drawer. You know, that's like a physical way of just
Don't take everything out at once.
because that can get, I mean, if you have the time to block off to do it, yes, is it always better to kind of do it like that? But if you can't, don't get hung up on that. Start small, because that sense of satisfaction you get from doing that one small space will spur you to keep going. But we usually say to think of the area, 2 questions. Which area is causing you the most stress? And then the follow-up question is, which area, if organized and gotten under control, will have the biggest impact on your daily life today? So even pandemic aside, like your bedroom might be really cluttered and that might really irk you, but maybe your kitchen is also disorganized and maybe that's the hub of your home. Maybe that's where your whole family gathers. Maybe it also serves as a home office. Maybe, you know, your paperwork or stuff is all in there and it's kind of, so if you get that area under control, that's the one to start with, because that's the one that'll have the biggest impact. And when you see that impact, again, you get a sense of how it is to live a more organized life. And then you can kind of say, all right, I've got this. Now I've had some more tools. Let me apply this to my bedroom. Let me apply this to other areas. So
that's great advice. For people that are watching and are wondering, I want to hire Annmarie. How do I do that? Because now we have the social distancing. You can't go to the homes. So how is that working out, and how will that work out for people who are watching and want to reach out to you and hire you?
Well, we can't come to your home physically yet until they raise all of these restrictions, but we do offer virtual organizing, which we started to do. So just like via this platform that we're doing our interview, we can come and be a steady presence as you do we can do everything but the heavy lifting physically. But we can hold your hand through the process. We can teach you the organizing strategies, which is so important, with the idea that you will then go ahead and implement them. We can set goals with you, and we can walk you through the process. And when you get stuck, we're right there, just like you and I are talking right now. When you get stuck, when you're having a hard time letting go of something, and again, there's a myth that we want you to get rid of everything you own. We don't care if you keep everything you own. If you have the space to handle it, we'll just help you maximize your space and keep everything you own. But if the stuff that is not serving you is preventing you from managing your space efficiently and living the life that you want to live, and it comes down to the fact of there are certain things that would support letting go, we will be very compassionate about talking you through that process and creating the space for you to kind of say, it's time because look what I'm building and creating. Look what I'm going to get it. And we'll also show you ways to honor the person who's attached to the item.
Oh, that's great.
Because just because you're letting go of the physical
Right.
thing does not mean you have to let go of the memory, the connection. There are definitely different ways to capture, video, photos, different things like that.
And that's a great question. How is this serving me, or what purpose, right?
Yeah, I think sometimes we live the way we've always lived, and we've done things the way we've always done it. And sometimes we just don't really think about it. And when we consciously put a focus on it and
Mm.
create a space to think about it a little bit more intently. I had a really interesting, like when I moved into this house, my daughter was 10 months old, and we basically, while we did a broad, yes, kitchen stuff went into the kitchen and bathroom stuff went into I didn't think about it because I had to get in quickly. I was working, I had a baby, we were trying to just kind of get up and running, right? So I didn't think much more than get bathroom stuff in the bathroom. And then one day I was bending down to get an extra roll of toilet paper. And when I stood back up again, straight ahead was all these items that I needed, but I wasn't accessing. They were like replenishing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing I was grabbing all the time. I was grabbing it once in a while. And I had this aha moment. I said, why in the world am I bending down to get toilet paper, which I need all the time, and coming up to this beautiful space at eye level, which is better on my back to reach for? It's just because I wasn't consciously thinking about it. So when I consciously put a focus on it, I took the stuff I had and I reorganized it in a way that supported me, helped my back, helped me see what I needed, on a more regular basis. And it was just, it wasn't that I wasn't organized before. I could find what I needed, but I just took it to that next level.
Right.
Oh, that's another point too, if I can just make one
Sure.
more
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
People also think they have to go from A to Z, like in one shot.
Right.
We want you to go from A to B and then B to C, because there's lots of reasons why people are disorganized, and some people have never been organized, and other people have always been organized, but maybe a life event got them off track,
Mm-hmm.
and they just need just to get back on track or to kind of craft a new way of doing things. So maybe they're organized and they're already at E, we'll take them to F or G. But you're not going to go from A to Z without getting overwhelmed. So take that pressure off of yourself. If you get from A to B,
That's an accomplishment, right?
celebrate the wins. And we celebrate the wins with you, again, to keep you motivated on track. So, and
And Annmarie, you are also an author. You just released a book called Beyond Tidy, Declutter Your Mind. Do you want to tell us about it? How can we get your book? And what is it exactly about? I mean, besides decluttering or deorganizing.
It's very exciting for us. My partner, Marie Limpert, and I were approached last year about writing a book about organizing. And we just released it digitally on April 28th. Unfortunately, the pandemic, which has affected all of us and our businesses and our work and our lives, has delayed the physical printing of the book. It's slated for June 2nd, but the book is called Beyond Tidy, Declutter Your Mind and Discover the Magic of Organized Living. It is available on Amazon. It's available digitally, Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, Apple Books, Google Play Books. What it does is it takes our top 8 organizing principles and it merges it with the science of positive psychology, and it teaches you the process of how to approach an organizing project from start to finish. It talks about different types of clutter. There's a whole chapter on where to begin. So it's interesting that you asked me that question. Where do I begin? It kind of talks about what cluttered is, and it talks about what it means to be organized, which has nothing to do with how neat and tidy something is.
That's interesting.
It's the mindset and the behavior behind what you're doing. That is really what it means to be organized. Sometimes all you need is a jump start. So give yourself that gift of a jump start, because whatever you invest, your time and your money that you invest in it is going to come back to you in so many other ways. And you're going to have time and money to spend on the stuff that you want to be spending it on, with the people that you want to be spending it on with. And you're going to lower your stress, because clutter, just the sight of clutter, has been known to increase stress.
Annmarie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us for this interview. Have a great day.